Last night, following the conclusion of a NATO summit, President Joe Biden gave what his staff promised would be a big boy press conference, the president's first full press conference in 8 months, to reassure the American people that he was still up to the job and ready to serve another 4 years. The evening did not start out well.
Now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway.
After confusing the presidents of Russia and Ukraine, Biden then confused his vice president with his opponent.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
Now, a man who is this confused probably should not be commander-in-chief, and apparently he's not.
Our military is working. I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief, the chief of staff of the military, as well as the Secretary of Defense and our intelligence people.
It was a long press conference after an important NATO summit, and if you didn't have time to watch it, the main takeaway is that President Joe Biden and Vice President Donald Trump have done a marvelous job supporting President Vladimir Putin of Ukraine. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. Star Wars has apparently gone totally lib. I'm not just talking about the lesbian space witches, which we knew about from the first episodes of the new Star Wars show, but now a complete blurring of good and evil, which lies at the very heart, that distinction lies at the very heart of Star Wars. My nerd producer gave me the executive summary earlier, so I will convey that to you and explain what it means for the culture. First, though, Sicilian Summer's back, baby. Don't let them tell you it's canceled. It's not. Here we have the beautiful Sicilian Summer, citrusy, limoncello, smell of Sorrento or Taormina or something. Candle. It's really good. TheCandleClub.com. That's where you got to go. Don't forget TheCandleClub.com. You can also get Wise Man. That, frankly, is probably my favorite candle. It makes your home smell like a 12th century monastery. We've got PSL. We've got Crème de la Crème. We've got Old Soul. We've got the entire Mayflower line of candles in beautiful. That's a really elevated candle line in a beautiful colored holder, or holder of color, I guess we say, to be politically correct. It's really, really good. You know, all of my products are combustibles. I basically only sell things that you can light on fire. So go get those right now. And then when your home smells really, really nice, you can make it smell even better by cooking great meat from Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com, use promo code Knowles. Goodranchers.com is the #1 place to get 100% American meat this summer. Celebrate the sweet taste of freedom with savory meats conveniently delivered right to your door, all born, raised, and made right here in the USA. Whether you're hosting a backyard barbecue, a poolside party, or a beach bonfire, Good Ranchers has you covered. It is the best meat you're going to get. It's absolutely outrageous. And even if you don't have a sweet little Elisa to make you the most sumptuous meals out of it, even if you're just a schlub like me and you're cooking it yourself, it's still going to taste amazing. It is the best meat you're going to get. The prices cannot be beat. Right now, you can save on Good Ranchers meat like never before. If you subscribe to any Good Ranchers box, you will get $100 off plus free American Wagyu burgers for a year. And those burgers are the best burgers I have ever had. And they are my favorite thing that Good Ranchers puts out. Even though all their meats are great, they are the greatest burgers ever. And apparently you get a lot of them for free now. Our listeners can get this special offer by going to goodranchers.com using code Knowles. It's more than a deal. It is a chance to celebrate America by supporting American family farms and enjoying the highest quality American meat. Claim this offer at goodranchers.com. Subscribe to any of their custom curated boxes filled with 100% American beef, chicken, pork, or wild-caught seafood. Use code Knowles at checkout to claim $100 off and free American Wagyu burgers for a year. Goodranchers.com, promo code Knowles. It was a rough press conference. I'm going to go through this as quickly as I can because there were a few moments that you simply cannot miss to understand the gravity of the situation for the Democrat Party, which is now in total mutiny and revolt against the nominee. They're trying to get him to step down, but also the United States. A lot of people wondered if President Biden was going to step down as the Democrat nominee last night. My production team was staying late in order to cover this to go live. And I said, guys, the odds of that happening are like 1%. And the reason is, if Biden steps down as the Democrat nominee in 2024, he has to resign the presidency. Because the reason he would be stepping down as the nominee is that he has dementia, that he's not mentally up to the task. But if he's not mentally up to the task of running for president, he's certainly not mentally up to the task of being president. So he wasn't going to make this statement after a NATO summit and a press conference. This would be a statement he would make from the Oval Office. This would be very serious. A president resigning the office, and then Kamala would become president. It just wasn't going to happen. So he went out to try to reassure the Democrat elites and Democrat voters, and then at the tertiary level, the American people, that he's still up to the task. It didn't work that well. He comes out, it was supposed to be an off-the-cuff press conference. He gives a windy speech off of a teleprompter, and then he says, okay, now I'm yours. Ask me anything. Let's go. No holds barred. I'm going to be flying extemporaneous. And then he undermined that by beginning the press conference with the acknowledgement that he was given a list of reporters to call on.
With that, I'll take your questions. I've been given a list of people to call on here. Reuters, Jeff Mason.
So he does this all the time, but it was especially damaging during this press conference because this was supposed to be Joe Biden freewheeling, no questions too tough, I can't answer it. And that's why I've got a highly curated list that my staff has vetted. This after the Biden campaign just got caught asking a radio station to cut out segments of an interview with Joe Biden. The radio station actually acquiesced. So it didn't accomplish what it was supposed to accomplish, which is Joe Biden can handle anything. That was supposed to be your takeaway from it. Right from the start, he was saying that this is going to be highly curated. Most of the reporters did ask him if he was going to get out, if he's too old, if he's still up for the job. Zeke Miller was one of the few, maybe the only reporter to ask him a substantive policy question. And I thought this was really smart because Biden had prepared all the answers to whether or not he's too old, whether or not he should get out, if he thinks he's up to it in 2024. The test of his mental acuity is, can he answer questions on policy? Can he track all the names of the players? No. Can he track all of the geopolitical conflicts that are sparking off? No. Can he, but that was going to be the test. Don't tell me you're up to the job. Show me you're up to the job. So I thought it was really smart of Zeke Miller to ask those questions. He then did follow it up with questions on whether or not he's up to the job, and Biden kind of flubbed those too. But here's just a little glimpse of Biden trying to explain geopolitics.
And I think you'll see that some of our European friends are going to be curtailing their investment in Russia. In China, as long as China continues to have this indirect success, help to Russia in terms of being able to help their economy as well as help them in, as a consequence of that, their ability to fight in Ukraine.
This rambling goes on for minutes, and so the Democrat spin doctors who are trying to get on Biden's good side, not the ones who are in full mutiny, but the ones who are now hedging their bets because Biden is showing no sign of stepping down and it's just a big game of chicken. The Democrat spin doctors are saying, look, Biden had a great command of the facts. He was able to just riff on foreign policy. He wasn't. He was meandering. So then I went and I said, we had chips in America, and I went and then we put them to Europe or Asia. And China said, and it was just a complete meandering nonsense. No one could have drawn any conclusions from it. China did not come out all that clearly here. Japan and Korea didn't fare any better.
I remember when the staff, I said, I'm going to go to South Korea. We're going to get the chip. What are you doing? I'm going to get Japan and Korea back together again after essentially having hostilities toward one another since the end of World War II. I'm going to move and see that we can expand it.
There was a lot of, there was a lot of, anyway, if I took a shot of vodka every time Joe Biden lost his train of thought and abruptly concluded his statement with, well, anyway, I would be deader than Joe Biden. It wasn't every single answer, but it was pretty close. He then fell into another rhetorical error, which is also probably caused by his senility, which is he fell into that really creepy whisper voice. Joe Biden will just kind of be talking and it's almost normal. And then he gets into that really creepy Joe Biden whisper voice. He did that several times.
If your team came back and showed you data that she would fare better against former President Donald Trump, would you reconsider your decision to stay in the race?
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that.
Actually, all of them do. But you can't read polls or much of anything else anymore, or you're just lying to us, which is, I don't know which is more likely, actually, at this point. That was the end of the press conference until one reporter jumped the line, and I guess he wasn't on that sheet of paper, but he stood up, and as the president's handlers are trying to shuffle him off the stage, the reporter says, hey, hold on. In this very press conference where you're trying to convince us all that you have a command of the facts and your faculties, you confused your own vice president with your opponent in this race. You called Kamala Harris Donald Trump. So, come on, man, what gives? Doesn't that undermine your argument? Here's Biden's answer.
This concludes.
Respectfully, earlier you misspoke in your opening answer. You referred to Vice President Harris as Vice President Trump. Right now, Donald Trump is using that to mock your age and your memory. How do you combat that criticism from tonight?
Listen to him.
This concludes tonight's press conference.
Listen to him. Okay, we agree. Joe Biden and I agree. You should listen to Donald Trump. That's a good idea. And what did Donald Trump have to say about this? He congratulated Joe Biden. He posted on Truth Social, Crooked Joe begins his big boy press conference with, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, though I think she was not qualified to be president. Great job, Joe. Great. You're doing a great job. Whatever you hear, you're going to hear two stories. Now, the Republicans in this case are not only going to give you the clearest picture of what happened because we like honesty and we don't want to tell lies, but even beyond that, even if Republicans had no integrity whatsoever, the reason you're going to get the best analysis of this from Republicans is Republicans basically want Joe Biden to stay in the race, but Republicans want to beat Joe Biden in November. And so we make fun of him, but we also want him to stay in the race because it seems pretty clear right now Trump would win about 57 states if Biden is the opponent. So we don't have much of a dog in this fight. Also, the second-tier candidates who could replace Biden, Kamala Harris almost certainly, but even the rest of them are just not a huge threat to Trump. Biden in full form with altered election rules is a threat to Trump. This guy is much less of a threat to Trump. So we're kind of just telling you like it is. I hope we do that all of the time, but in this case, we really have no incentive to lie or spin. The Democrats, you're going to hear totally conflicting conclusions. The Democrats who are fully opposed to Biden at this point, who have come out and said he's demented and we can't have him be president, they're going to say this was a disastrous press conference. The Democrats who are still trying to curry favor with Trump, at least publicly, they're going to say this was a good press conference. He talked about China, even though he got some names wrong and some places and things. And anyway, he was able to talk for whatever it was, half an hour or more. So that proves to you he's up to the job. The press conference failed. And the press conference failed because the purpose of the press conference was to persuade people that Biden is not in mental decline. And he did not achieve that. He will not see a boost in his poll numbers, any significant boost in his poll numbers from it. He will not see any boost in support from Democrats because of this conference. It failed. It failed to achieve. Even though Biden was able to stay awake, he wasn't quite drooling and staring off into the vast abyss like he was during the debate with Trump. So yeah, I guess in that way it's an improvement if your expectations are that low, but it did not achieve what it was supposed to achieve. Now, when you want to stay healthy for a really, really long time, even when you're up at the age of good old Joe Biden, you got to check out Lumen. Go to lumen.me, use promo code Knowles. I'm not the biggest hulking Adonis in the world, okay? I'm not a total gym rat or anything, but I would like to be in decent shape and live a good long time. And that is why I love Lumen. It is difficult to prioritize your health. However, Lumen makes it much, much easier. With Lumen, you got this cool, nifty little gadget. It is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It is this device that measures your metabolism through your breath. All you've got to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning. It's so simple, even I can remember it, and you will know what is going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. And what sets Lumen apart is its ability to understand you on a personal level. It takes your unique metabolic data, it crafts a personalized nutrition plan for that day. It's tailored to your body's needs and goals. And that way you don't need to go hire some fancy Hollywood nutritionist or something like that. It's very, very simple. A great application of technology to improve your life. Right now, go to lumen.me/Knowles, Knowles. Get 15% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me. Use Knowles for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for supporting this show. This whole episode, I'm not saying the NATO conference. I'm not even saying the presidential debate. I'm saying the whole collapse of the Biden propaganda machine has exposed not just Joe Biden and not just the Biden staff, but the journalists as absolute hacks. And you don't need to take my word for it. They themselves, some of the most prominent liberal journalists, are admitting it. Here's an exchange between Chuck Todd of NBC and Jonathan Martin of Politico, two key representatives of two key establishment liberal news outlets, admitting that the journalists, the reporters, have been gossiping about Biden's obvious cognitive decline for years.
The politicians in the Democratic Party have shown in the last few days that a lot of them simply don't have the courage of their convictions. Right. They simply aren't willing to stand up and say in public what they've been telling folks like us in private for years. This is not a new story.
Jonathan, I don't want to I'm not going to out the cabinet secretary.
Right.
But I had a cabinet secretary 2 years ago.
Right.
Okay. 2 years ago. All out of the blue, ask me, do you really think he can't run again like this? And I said, well, you have more interaction with him than I do. And they said, I don't have a lot of interaction with him. This is a pretty senior cabinet secretary. So, and this was 2 years ago. This is one of those, it's the classic open secrets, a non-versation, right? It's the story everybody knows and everybody was afraid to talk about.
Chuck, I think we actually had this conversation about the non-versation last year because
I know we did.
You used that word exactly.
Yes, we've chronicled this. I mean, look, for those that want to say, oh, the media isn't. Look, the media is as good as as the sources who don't lie to us are.
Hold on. I'm sure you guys have been talking about this for years. I'm sure your sources in the Democrat political establishment have told you for years that Biden is demented. And I'm sure you've known that and agreed with that. And I'm sure that you, Chuck Todd, have talked to Jonathan about this, Jonathan Martin of Politico. I'm sure many other liberal journalists have talked about this. But you didn't chronicle it. That's a big lie right there. Oh, we've chronicled. No, you've chronicled it amongst each other. I don't remember seeing those big splashy reports on NBC and Politico and the New York Times and the Washington Post saying Biden is demented. He's too senile to be president. There's no way he can go on. You all said that, apparently, amongst yourselves, but you didn't tell us. You hid it from us, and in some cases, you lied to us. And you pretended that we weren't seeing what we were seeing. We weren't hearing what we were hearing. Actually, it was just the return after 70 years of a childhood stutter. But you knew it. And then when we conservatives said, hey, the guy's demented, obviously, right? The guy should be in a nursing home. You said, no, this is a conspiracy theory. This is a lie. Let me quote Joe Scarborough. This is the best Biden we've ever seen. Intellectually, analytically, we've never seen a better Biden. But you all knew it. And you all just lied to us. Why did they do that? Because they thought that their job was not to expose the truth. It was a non-versation, right? Their job was to hide the truth. And then at the end, you can tell Chuck Todd realizes, oh, yikes, I'm admitting that I just lied to my audience for years. Look, they knock the media, but the media is only as good as the sources that don't lie to us are. No, you just admitted the sources weren't lying to you. The sources told you the truth. The sources told you that cabinet secretaries told you that Joe Biden was in mental decline. You lied. You lied to us. That's the problem. Why? Because the job of the establishment journalists is not to speak truth to power. It's not to follow the facts wherever they lead. The job of the establishment journalists is to be propagandists for the Democrat Party. And you thought that you could get away with it. You thought that the childhood stutter lie was going to be sufficient and you could hide Biden. And as long as you didn't cover him too closely, he would squeak by. He'd beat Trump in 2020. Maybe he'd beat him in 2024. And unfortunately for you, Biden's poll numbers declined just low enough that Biden had to challenge Trump to a debate. Biden would have avoided the debate otherwise. And Biden set all these outrageous conditions where he hoped Trump would either reject the conditions or try to negotiate, and then he could get out of it and not look like a chicken. But Trump, very wisely, just accepted all of the conditions. Said, sure, whatever you want. We'll do it on CNN. We won't have an audience. We can have a big DNC banner behind us. I don't care, Joe. I just want to get you on stage, talk man to man. And then Joe got exposed. He wasn't exposed because the journalists dug in. He wasn't exposed because the sources leaked. He was exposed because Trump was able to bypass the journalists. That's exactly what happened. And now all of a sudden the media are talking. They weren't talking very much for 3 years. Now they're talking and now they're angry. Why are they so angry at Joe Biden? The way they sound like a jilted lover. They sound like they've been betrayed by Biden, but they're admitting to you they knew about this. The reason they're furious at Biden is not that he lied to them. He didn't. It's not that the people around him lied to him. They didn't. It's that he made them look foolish. They had a deal. They made a little pact. Okay, we're going to cover for you, Mr. President. You're just going to play it cool and you're going to win and we're all just going to move forward together. And then Biden blew it. Biden slipped. And he made the journalists look foolish and look like the hacks that they are. And now they're real angry about it. Now they're talking. I want to talk to you about Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles. You've heard me say for a long time that cell phone service with Pure Talk is half the cost of Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. Pure Talk can offer unlimited talk, unlimited text, plenty of data for just $20 a month. Just ask the thousands of my listeners who've already switched. They are loving America's most dependable 5G network. They love Pure Talk's U.S. customer service, their selection of premium phones, and the money that they're saving month to month, especially right now. The economy is in such bad shape. Inflation has so damaged Americans' budgets. What are you waiting for? On top of all that, you can support a company like Pure Talk that supports us, that's creating American jobs, that supports our veterans, and that believes in what we believe and has a proper vision for the country. It is a no-brainer. You will also get the most dependable 5G network in the country. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles, KNWLES, to upgrade your cell phone service to America's most dependable 5G network. Save an extra 50% off your first month. puretalk.com/Knowles. My favorite comment yesterday is from Matthew Hubley 7282, who says, to the Republicans in Congress, never interrupt your adversary when they are in the middle of losing. So true. I know, I learned this last night. President Trump could invoke the 25th Amendment if he wanted, because he is the vice president of the United States, according to Joe Biden. But I still don't think that Vice President Trump should do that, because I think Joe Biden, I guess that would make Trump president automatically? But then we have to figure out who the commander-in-chief is. Because apparently, according to Biden, the commander-in-chief is neither the president nor the vice president. But in any case, maybe it would be safer just to run the election as is. You got the Democrat nominee chosen by the Democrat primary voters, Joe Biden. What a great expression of democracy. And you got the Republican nominee chosen by the Republican voters, Donald Trump. Let's just let him duke it out in November, shall we? Let's see how that goes. My nerd 12-year-old producer, Professor Jacob, gave me an earful when I was in the makeup chair today. And I asked him to do this because I saw this story that Star Wars had gone super lib. And I know that he's a big nerd and has been following this all very closely. And we covered it on the show a few weeks ago. When I say it's gone lib, I don't just mean a little cheeky line here and there. I mean, they've now inserted pronouns into the Star Wars universe, and they had a whole episode about lesbian space witches making an IVF force baby through some kind of galactic surrogacy. We're talking real news, political, relevant, lib stuff. So now, in episode 7 of the new Star Wars show, The Acolyte, they've gone much, much further. They have turned the Jedi, who are supposed to be the good guys, into the bad guys. And they've turned the lesbian space witches, who sometimes make themselves look like weird gas smoke demons, into the good guys. Here's just a quick scene that's been going around the internet. So for those of you who are just listening, the lesbian space witch turns herself into a black smoke demon thing. And then the Jedi, apparently there's an Asian Jedi now. The Jedi pulls out his lightsaber and stabs the smoke, but the smoke is apparently still sort of corporeal. And then the baby that was created without a father cries out, "Mom."
It's what she wants. It's what she wants. She chose you.
And then she falls down dead, and the kid's really upset.
Mama! Mama!
So the lesbian space witch, for those of you who weren't able to see it, lesbian space witch is there, gets a kid somehow without a father, doing occult weird spells. In the modern age, we would call this IVF and surrogacy, where you just like purchase a child on the open market. And the Jedi realize there's something not quite right about this. So then the Jedi break the Jedi code, according to my nerd producer, and they go to kidnap these girls, which it's not the sort of thing that the Jedi would do. I guess a parallel in history is that Christians, want to. We have a great commission. We want to make disciples of all nations, but we don't do it at the point of a sword. Despite what the libs say, that's basically never happened. I mean, there are a couple of examples you could point to in 2,000 years of Christian history that was frowned upon by the theologians. That's usually not how it happens. And certainly the Christians have, since the very beginning of the church, opposed, baptizing children by force, say. That's always been opposed by the church. And you might say, well, I don't know, that way you could baptize the kids and then they'll, have the opportunity for eternal life. But the church has always recognized the family as a good and natural institution, and so you wouldn't violate the parents' wishes. Apparently, the Jedi had a similar kind of code, and so this new show violates that. The Jedi are now kidnappers, I guess. But then the craziest part of this is the lady, the lesbian space witch, turns into a big smoke demon with scary eyes and big black smoke. It was obviously threatening the Jedi. The Jedi stabs her, and she goes, "I was going to let her go. I'm the good guy. I just did the big smoke demon thing just as a farewell, ooga booga booga, but I was totally just joking, man. I was just joshing around. Why'd you stab me with your lightsaber? Anyway, and then she dies. What this represents is a blurring of good and evil. Something that people like about Star Wars, the reason that kids really like the show, is it has a Manichaean view of the universe. There's good and there's evil. And these are opposing principles, and they're fought in this seemingly eternal battle. That's not quite the Christian view of things, but that is a kind of basic pagan, Gnostic, Manichaean view of the universe, and it's really easy to understand, and it's childish, and children are kind of drawn to it. But the even more childish view, which is now prominent not among little kids or even virtuous pagans, but among liberal intellectuals in our present age, is that, hey man, there's really no such thing as good and evil. It's all just it's all 50 shades of gray, man. It all blurs together. And in fact, some of the people behind the new Star Wars series use this phrase, gray, the gray Jedi. It's the blending of good and evil. Who can really say what's good and evil? Compare George Lucas talking about the Force and Star Wars to the new people who are in control of the franchise.
You were in Star Wars. Would you be on the light or the dark side?
Dark side.
Yeah, 100% dark side. Dark side user right here. So sorry, but the dark side is cooler.
It just is.
The dark side is pleasure, biological, and temporary, and easy to achieve. The light side is joy, everlasting, and difficult to achieve. One is selfless, one is selfish, and you want to keep them in balance. What happens when you go to the dark side is it goes out of balance, and then you get really selfish and you forget about everybody.
I really like the gray Jedi code. The gray Jedi code, and like I am just kind of a diplomatic person.
The best parts about Star Wars is there is no good or evil. Depends on what side you're standing on, truly. You know what I mean?
I would be both. I guess I'd be gray, you know?
It being able to access your emotions, but using your emotions for good.
Because when you get selfish, you get stuff. Or you want stuff. And when you want stuff and you get stuff, then you are afraid somebody's going to take it away from you. Whether it's a person or a thing or a particular pleasure, experience. Once you become afraid that somebody's going to take it away from you or you're going to lose it, then you start to become angry.
Just like Mother Anastasia, I would be questioning the whole system of saying what is light and what is dark. I think definitely Jodie Tennis would be like not existing inside of either side. I guess I'd be gray, you know, but my lightsaber would be red.
Yeah, I'm sure all of these modern Star Wars people would be gray, or even some of them are honest. Oh, I'd be on the dark side. George Lucas giving a really elevated and distinction between the good and the bad, the light and the dark. He's saying, yeah, one is oriented toward the common good. One is in alignment with reason and justice. And one of them is self-focused. It's about self-interest. It's not really about reason. It's about the irrational will. And that's a really good description. It sheds a lot of light on the series. And then all of these modern people, they say, no, I'm kind of gray, man. There's no good and evil, man. And you ever notice how the people who deny the difference between good and evil tend to do a lot of evil? It's not usually the really meek, pious, sweet, charitable, humble people who are denying the difference between good and evil. It's always the ones who are doing a lot of evil. Kind of like a big cope to say, no, man, I'm not that evil. You know, what's good? What is good? You know, what is truth? So this is something that we've seen crop up in false religion for all of history. When one identifies divinity with just kind of everything, the pagans, pantheism, then you can't make a distinction between good and evil, because it's all just kind of in everything, man. You know, we all got a little bit. We have two wolves in our bodies, the good and the bad, and whichever one you feed is the one that has more dominance and whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's one view in pagan religion. Then there's another view. You see it especially in Islam, which is the view that, no, God, it's not that God is in everything. God actually has basically nothing to do with us. God is totally transcendent. There is no Christ in Islam. There is no sacrament, really. God is totally transcendent. We can't even communicate with him via reason. He is utterly transcendent. Then in Christianity, you have, in my view, the best of both worlds. And I think the truest vision, which is God is totally transcendent. He does create the world. There is a history. It's not just recurring cycles of incarnation. And no, it's not just, that God's kind of part of everything, man, and we're all, the divinity or whatever. No, God really creates things and creates us, but he creates us in his own image, and he sends his only begotten son to be incarnate as the crux of history to redeem us. So we have a connection to God in the Imago Dei, in the incarnation, in the sacraments, and even at a more abstracted sense in the sacramentals that he leaves to us, and through our reason. The libs erase all of that. There's no reasoning. There's no clear moral distinction. The story doesn't make a lot of sense. Just like the new Star Wars story. Finally, I've arrived at my favorite time of the week when I get to hear from you in the mailbag. Our mailbag is sponsored by Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles, Canada-B-L-E-S, to upgrade your cell phone service to America's most dependable 5G network and save an extra 50% off your first month. Take it away.
Hello, Mr. Knowles. I listen to your show every day. I am a truck driver going state to state in this wonderful country of ours, and I am enjoying my first box of Mayflower cigars. I just finished a Dusk, and before that I finished a Dawn a few days ago. I also enjoy smoking a pipe because I tend to find that I can have more smoke per dollar. I was wondering, is there a way that you know of that I could tear up the end of a cigar so that it is fit to smoke in a pipe? Is there a way that I can do this cleanly and efficiently, especially while on the road? I look forward to hearing your wisdom, O swarthy, incensed papist.
That is a beautiful question, and what a beautiful scene. One of my favorite ways to smoke a cigar is when I'm going on a long drive. A year or two ago, I was driving to a friend's wedding in Mississippi. It was going to be a 7-hour drive. I thought, oh, good. People dread long car rides. I look forward to them, especially if I'm driving alone, because I said, oh, good. I'm going to put on a good podcast or a good audiobook. I'm going to spark up a good cigar. Well, there's an hour and a half of my drive right there. So I love it, especially if you're a truck driver. Depending on the range, you have the opportunity for a lot of good cigars. And your question is very good. Yes, the simplest way to do it is you just put the nub of the cigar into the pipe. That's it. You don't need to grind it up. It depends on how wide the bowl is of your pipe, or if you have multiple pipes, you probably want to use one of the wider bowls. But that's all you do. And this is a classic trick by cigar guys. I had a great cigar dealer in Los Angeles. He had very expensive cigars. So I thought, I want to smoke this thing down until it burns my fingers. I don't want to let any of this go. And he said, oh, yeah, bro, buddy, what you do, of course, you smoke the cigar, then it starts to burn your finger. You put the nub of it back in your pipe, and then you finish it that way. It's a great way to do it. Might be a little, although frankly, it's probably easy. If you're driving a truck, it's probably easier to do the cigar in the pipe thing than to actually tamp a pipe. Tamping a pipe and packing it, it's kind of tricky. So that's what I would do. If the ring gauge is too large, and the pipe bowl is too small, then what I would do is just slice it in half. It's long filler tobacco, so it's not like pipe tobacco, which is the reason pipe tobacco is cheaper is because it's just much easier to produce. It's all torn up into little strips or sometimes little bits. And so this is long filler hand rolled tobacco. But even so, you just kind of pack it down. I would just pack it down the same way you pack a pipe and enjoy it that way. Then you'll get an extra 10% or 15% out of your cigar. Happy trails. Next question.
Hey, Michael. I'm currently mired in a fire hose of lib problems and need some advice. My adopted aunt has a daughter who just had her 10th birthday who said she wanted to be a boy. But that alone would be too simple. My aunt divorced the dad of the mentioned 10-year-old and 2 siblings and took a new wife, in quotations, who divorced her husband and took their son, only about 2 years old, away from the father and now live together. And the hair colors collectively make up everything on the pride flag. I've known my aunt and their family ever since I was born, and I don't want to rip it apart, but I can't tolerate this without any intervention because I know it's wrong. But I fear if I do, I'll ostracize myself from the rest of my family. Any advice you have would be greatly appreciated. P.S. I'm sorry if this was confusing. This is my first mailbag question, and I know this sounds like a wild story, but on my honor, this is an entirely real story.
Yeah, I believe it. So first of all, don't worry about tearing your aunt's family apart. She has done that. You're not doing that. She has done that. She divorced her husband. She decided she was going to be a lesbian, like the witches in Star Wars. She found this woman so not only has she scandalized her 10-year-old child, done something profoundly evil to her 10-year-old child, but she's found this woman who then left her husband and scandalized a 2-year-old child in this awful way. So you're not ripping any family apart. They've done a stellar job of that themselves. So you're torn between two things. Do I do what is, often prudent in families and generally just keep my opinions to myself and they'll respect my opinions and we all see each other a few times a year for Thanksgiving and we just move on? Or do you follow your conscience and do what's right and tell her what's right. Because there's a pitfall to either. The pitfall of keeping your mouth shut is, what about when you have kids? What about the scandal that is going to cause for your children and for your siblings and I don't know, whoever else is in your family? That we tolerate? Do we encourage this kind of thing? Divorce, scandalizing kids, removing them from their fathers. That's what we do in this family now? I don't think so. So that's one downside. But then the downside to voicing your opinion is you blow the whole family, not her family, but your whole family up. So now, Aunt Skylar or whatever doesn't come to Thanksgiving anymore. So what I would do, as a prudent way to achieve both ends, is I would go to your parents, right? Because this is your aunt and you owe some deference and some respect to your elders. So I would go to your mother, your father, whoever sister it is, and say, hey, Aunt Skylar is doing really awful things. And, at the very least, she should dye her hair back to a normal color, but she should probably also stop scandalizing children and doing all this extremely disordered stuff and bringing it into our house. So what do you think should be done here? And then if someone's going to talk to the aunt, it should probably be a sibling or, I don't know, the grandparent or, whoever, your aunt's mother or father. But that's how I would do it. So I would try to, in prudence, achieve both ends. You don't want to be totally radical and just recklessly risk blowing up your whole family, but you also don't want to be cowardly and not voice your opinion when perhaps you could actually help the situation. Next question.
Good morning, Michael. This is Arun. So I watched last Thursday's presidential debate with delight and glee as the tyrant Joe Biden was exposed for the demented fraud that he is. But it appears to me that the left's alacrity to abandon him in favor of a more reliable and sane candidate leaves us with a choice. As you know, I love Trump. No homo. But I have serious doubts about his ability to win in a general election due to his lack of popularity outside of his core base, which is why I preferred for us to nominate a candidate such as Vivek or Meatball Ron. On the one hand, the exposure of Joe Biden's demented status to his own supporters now leaves President Trump in a much stronger position going into the general election. On the other hand, Joe Biden wields the nuclear codes and is thus capable, either through his action or more likely inaction, of causing the destruction of this country via a nuclear attack from one of our enemies. Congressman Chip Roy recently announced that he is working on a bipartisan action aimed at pressuring the executive cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Joe Biden from the presidency in the interest of our national security. Now, it seems to me that Joe Biden's demented status was already known to America's enemies, if not acknowledged by the average Joe Biden voter. Should we support the removal of Joe Biden at the cost of potentially replacing him with a candidate who will present a much stronger showing against President Trump in the general election? Moreover, do you believe that it is wise for us to support the replacement of Joe Biden with Kamala Harris, who believes in the evil ideologies of Joe Biden, but also has the mental health and acuity of a 59-year-old woman, and who can more effectively execute his dangerous agenda? Thank you, as always, for your insight.
Great question. You're asking if we should imagine what could be unburdened by what has been, to quote one of our great stateswomen in the country. No, we should keep Joe in there. Chip Roy's great. He's terrific. I mean, I cast no shade on Chip Roy, but I would not support the 25th Amendment push because of what you said about our enemies. As a Republican partisan, I like our chances against Joe Biden. Let's put it that way. So I would like Joe Biden to remain the nominee for that reason. And you don't know. Kamala Harris could be even worse than Biden, but it's a wild card because we don't know that much about her. So let's say it's a 1% chance that she does a lot better than Joe. I don't want to take that chance. However, I would be willing to put my partisanship aside if it were really a matter of national security, certainly an existential matter of national security. But as you point out, Xi Jinping already knew this. Vladimir Putin already knew this. Maybe that's in part why Putin invaded Ukraine the moment Joe Biden got into office. We all knew this. You knew this. I knew this. Any ordinary Republican who doesn't only watch NBC News and CNN and read the New York Times, we all knew that Biden was demented. You think China didn't know that? You think Russia did? So that's already been baked in, and things haven't been going very well. But I don't think anything has really changed from the perspective of international intelligence. You don't need the KGB to go in and find out, wow, did you know, Vlad, that Biden's actually demented? If Biden has a subscription to any TV network, he knew that already. Next question.
Mr. Nostradamus, this is your second favorite UFC fighter, Smiling Sam Alvey, and I've got a fight coming up. A while back, you told me you'd corner me. I want to make that happen. So I actually talked to the higher-ups in Karate Combat, where I am the champion, said, hey, I need a fight that's local. I need a fight that's close. I need a fight that I can get the greatest corner in the world to. You. And they said, okay, how do we do that? I said, you put it in Nashville, and I promise you he'll be there. Well, they put it in Nashville. July 25th, I will be defending my Karate Combat Heavyweight Championship belt. I am the greatest karateka in the world, and I would like your help to keep me remaining that way. July 25th. Please join me. We're going to make history. I'm going to be the greatest champion that has ever been, and I would love to have your assistance in doing it. And I'll show you the ropes, too. I'll show you the most miserable parts of fighting. Weight cutting. Anyways, let me know. I will get you the details, and let's make it happen, sir.
Smiling Sam, that's cool, man. Well, let me see. I mean, the only trick now is, my wife might kill me in the ring of our living room if I leave her and the 3-week-old baby for a night. But if you're in Nashville, assuming I'm not traveling or I'm not already booked, Mr. Davies, Professor Jacob, please check the calendar immediately. If we can make this happen, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to teach you how to, I got the left hook and the right thing and the whatever. Let's go. I'm in. As long as the calendar's open, I'm in. Now, the rest of the show continues now. You don't want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLAS, at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.